Booyah, what's up, peeps? Welcome back to the channel. What have you guys had to drink so far today? I've had a double espresso and a buffed, and I feel great. So I hope you guys are all doing well, treating yourselves well. We got a great discussion following up on a video already on this channel from the Eavesdrop podcast with OpTic HecZ. It was a great discussion. I encourage you guys to go check out his full podcast, one of the best in esports, where they're talking about why OpTic members often stream. Even if they are players, they stream their scrims when they can. They make content outside of competing, and how it's not only healthy for the player long-term career-wise, you know, you might suffer a little bit in the short term, but you can make a potential long-term career when you're done competing, but it's also good for the ecosystem of the game and esports to have players streaming and making content. Do you agree or disagree? Here's the initial point.
It was around 2013, 2014 when I started to scream it at the top of my lungs for every player who plays any fucking game at a competitive level to fucking stream. And yes,
we need to. Yeah.
And yes, obviously, like, there is a disadvantage to that, and that's why some of the players don't stream S&D and all that. And then what ends up happening, and undoubtedly it'll continue to happen going forward forever and ever, is that by the time that your career comes, the end of your career comes, and it comes like that, you are then going to be left with the decision of, do I go back into the civilian world and get a job, a desk job somewhere, a construction job, or I can continue doing what I had been doing, at least in a part-time basis, right? And you see that now, like the amount of Call of Duty professionals that retire, the amount of Halo people that retire, the amount of CSGO. I mean, you name it across. Like it's. I'm not in a I told you so guy, unless I'm doing it in a teasing manner.
Oh, you're 100% right.
But it is something that like you may be sacrificing short term or making it more difficult for you, but in the end, your bank account will thank you, and therefore your family will thank you, and therefore your way of life will thank you. And I cannot tell you how, you know, I don't give a fuck, right? But it does disappoint me a little bit when I see people that I like fuck with not doing that.
But then off the back of that, and this was a full 10-minute discussion, which I'd loved to actually hear a player and an owner's perspective on this. And I would say owner/content creator. When it comes to HecZ, he is one of those few org owners out there who is making content and is certainly one of the bigger faces inside the organization, a very much rarity in esports, but I think one that we do need, and hopefully more to come in the future. But they talk about, and he gives reference to, how some teams out there don't really give a frick when it comes to making content and helping the longevity of the game. And he doesn't name anyone particular, but I imagine he's probably referencing the Call of Duty League, where you have these 12 franchise teams. And if you want to compare what OpTic is doing content-wise in the CDL to other teams, it's definitely, it's far and above. And some for rightful reason. When you have Scump and the team they do and the brand they've built out, obviously they're going to make a lot of content, but there is certainly a disparity between what OpTic does and every other team in CDL. And maybe what HecZ is alluding to by saying some teams just don't care enough.
So it's all coincides. I mean, look at every major sport, everything going on right now. Every single major sport, everyone's doing a podcast. Mm-hmm. Everyone's showing up to like media day. Everyone's showing up to everything. Yeah. Meanwhile, you have Halo teams that won't even do an interview on the main stage after they win a series.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So I told the guys, I'm like, guys, these fans aren't here to see you compete. They are here to see you entertain them.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I'm saying? They're here for you to work for them. And, you know, for the most part, you know, everybody here gets the job because I hammer it in there. But I don't know. It's disheartening at times because it then feels like we're the only ones that are trying. And, you know, it's like, look, if you look at the CDL, right? In the CDL, we go above and beyond what we need to in order to create the content to continue to have the audience that we do. But like, you have other teams that just like don't give a shit about that sort of stuff, and that's disheartening.
I mean, that's something I love about you guys, and that's something I actually did love about the old Oryx space station. They actually like go out of their way to do it.
Shonduras is the fucking man.
They promote it all the time. Like, it's awesome to see. And then, you know, you have some people just riding along. I don't like that. I want everyone to get on board.
Yeah, and look,
let's all get on board.
Again, me getting mad at people for them not wanting to make more money is asinine. So I stopped a long time ago, right? Like I'm not gonna, and even here, like I'm not gonna push somebody to make more money and get them annoyed at me when I'm just like, all right, well, fuck it, whatever. All right, so that aside, right, and the disadvantage that we put ourselves in by streaming some of our stuff, like it is important because it adds to the longevity of the esport.
100%. So I totally understand it.
Yeah, but I feel sometimes that some of these esports professionals, especially in Halo, well, not especially in Halo, but in console, that they just think that the paycheck's always going to be there because the esports always going to be there. And I say, look at Gears of War. I say, look at. I mean, Gears of War is the only one that we've sort of that broke my heart a little bit when it went away. So that's why I always bring it up as an example, because I don't want that to happen to Halo. Halo did so much for my mentality early on into like what the possibilities were.
And again, that's not me calling out other teams, but I will subtly agree with HecZ by saying there's a lot of organizations, not just in Call of Duty, but in esports in general, who over the past few years, they got a lot of investment and they just kind of floated and waned off that investment. And to the point where those orgs might not even be here anymore, because some of which, yes, they were never going to last, but others maybe had a chance to and didn't put the right work and effort into content like they probably should have. And so we do have a lot of organizations out there that focus on competing, which is great. If you can do that and have almost a break-even model, that is awesome. But other teams out there, like if you want to help the game that you're in, I do agree. Like I would love to see more esports organization content. It just sucks because over the last couple of years, it feels like we've seen a lot of restrictions. We've seen a lot of lightening of the loads of staff members in these teams. So when it comes to making content, I mean, that does take manpower. And unfortunately, a lot of teams out there no longer have the manpower to actually make content, which is, again, that's also partially understandable. Like OpTic is very lucky that they worked so hard for the past decade that they have these big names and they have a pretty set content schedule around, right? The things they do are very successful because they've been building it for years and years, as opposed to some of these newer teams, they don't have that brand backing. There's not much of a return for them to make the content that OpTic does. So I think I understand both sides, whilst also understanding that for the future of esports and the longevity of some of these games, and especially the teams, do you think they got to be making more content and putting more effort into it? I know, maybe did I just like talk way too, I don't know. I'm really into these topics. So HecZ referencing that some teams, they just don't give a poop about it as much as OpTic does. What do you guys think? And also ask you, I'll leave on this. Who do you think is a prime example of an esports organization, not OpTic, that does content very well and that does kind of an all-encompassing, who does it really well? And I'm just going to go completely top of mind, just thought of this question right as you guys heard it. I'm going to go besides OpTic, I'll say a team like G2, for me, they stand out as a brand. They've definitely built themselves up. Without Carlos at the forefront, he definitely was a big personality with all the stuff. He was really good for their brand. Aside from that, though, they still maintain a pretty good presence in a lot of these esports. They know how to talk trash, and their content's very high quality, what they put out. But there's probably other teams out there I could think of easily too. But who do you guys think? Till next time, take care of yourselves. We'll see you back here soon.